I just want to preface this, I do have the DLCs on, and I also have everything the DLCs can offer. Therefore, I'm going to have some extra stuff in terms of characters having more, the light giving more, and all of that. So keep that in mind as you're watching this. However, you should be able to take most of these points away, even if you don't have the DLC on. The Weld is much more blight heavy than it is bleed, therefore I would definitely recommend bringing along anti-venoms for healing. Now there are curios that do require bandages, but what I'm going to say is the enemies do blight over bleed. That's something to keep in mind. And also, for the most part, more enemies in here are blight resistant, higher on blight than they are bleed. Not to say there are not some high bleed resistant enemies in here, you shall see. But for the most part, that's a pretty good rule. You're probably not going to blight a lot unless you have it, as you can see with 100% blights on these guys and 60% in the bleed category. Now, you may not be too happy about me bringing a leper, and I know the battle's going on, but let me explain. The leper is really here just for the giants, because they are a sack of HP, and DOT isn't the most reliable. And you really need to get lucky with a couple of kind of big crits or at least 25 to 30 damage to get rid of them in 4 to 5 rounds. Giants are probably, and Viragos, are going to be the things that kill you within the Weld and are probably going to make what you hate about the Weld. Therefore, this party you're looking at may not seem very conventional, but it does do everything you need it to do. And the biggest weakness you're going to see right here is when you get shuffled, because when you get shuffled, that's really where this party doesn't excel at anymore. But there are a couple of skills, but there is the skill on the Hellion to shift you around. How to prioritize this fight in specific, and we'll look at others. In all reality, I really do want to kill the giant first here along with the hag. Whatever comes first is okay. I can have the Hellion and the leper hit the giant while my Houndmaster does just purely focus the crone or the hag in the back. The crone is now going to die, which leaves me only left to the giant here. As you can see, that's a 20 hit. It's pretty good, but it's not the worst. And this guy's really not going to do enough damage because there's currently no marks on me. And now the crone is fully dead. We're in a pretty good position. Now what I will say is the leper obviously has low accuracy. And I actually did not do anything to really remedy that situation, so that's kind of on me. But if you have an accuracy trinket, whether it's 10 accuracy to melee or 10 accuracy in general, it's really something you should do to make up for it, obviously. But the leper's a very tanky individual. He can take those tree branch smackdowns and also marks and all that other stuff. So I know you may not like the leper for the sense he's got bad row versatility, can't do much through protection. But here's my argument for the leper. He has a very high HP, which means he will be able to survive a tree smackdown or 2, even with a crit possibly. And here's the thing I'm going to do throughout the dungeon a little bit as well. I'm actually going to reduce the speed and damage of the giants to try to have them honestly do less damage and always go last. They usually do, but not all the time, so ensuring they go last and reducing their damage allows you other times and opportunities to kill other enemies in the lineup. Now this is probably one of the hardest lineups you'll face, and this team can handle it. It is the Giant and Virago. These are two very tough enemies, and we're going to have the dog treat for this because we're going to have to kill off the Virago almost the same as the Crone. Because the Virago's in reality going to set up everyone else for the extra damage, and once again we are going to barbaric yawp here. It's going to get resisted. If that didn't get resist, it was going to be a really good start. However, we do still need to stun at least one damage dealer, and we had a better chance on the Clawler than we did the Giant. Now once again, we get Fungal Spored, Confusion Spored again. It's not the worst setup because we do have Breakthrough and everyone else can use their abilities. So that is one thing that is concerning. Anytime the Leper would have got sent to the back, this would have been very detrimental. However, we're still in prime time position to do what we need to do. And here you can start to see me really reducing the speed and damage of the Corrupted Giant here, and as I said, I got that ability to move forward. When dealing with the Viragos, you got a couple of options. The Virago dies first, if possible, or you kill everyone and leave the Virago last, which you'll actually see later in this video, because there are options when you have that. And as you can see, the Leper is currently pretty good because he's tanking a lot of the damage, which some other individuals may not be able to do. The Weld hits very hard, and sometimes you're going to need people just to soak up that damage, and as you can see, we are just reducing that damage. We dogboned and we killed the Viragos within 3 turns, keeping everyone alive. And the next order of business will be debating whether we kill off the Clawler, because we are marked, as you see by that 23 critical that happened to my Hellion. Or if we just go all years ahead, we kill the Giant, because he's actually the one who's probably going to kill us, or at least send an individual to death's door with a critical. I do decide to focus the Giant because eventually after those marks go away, the Clawler does not have nearly the damage or utility output the Corrupted Giant will. Therefore, as I said, I do turn all of my guns onto the Giant because he is the target to kill in this situation. Giants are often the first ones to kill, not always, as you've seen a Crone and a Virago die before, but they're usually at least the second priority, and the reason for that is as I said before, they have the biggest chance of just reducing someone's HP pool to 0, and then someone following up next round with a high speed, or maybe someone with a lower speed coming after you right after that. Therefore, we do really need to be conscientious of that, and that might be the hardest or biggest reason why you hate the Weld. In all reality, once you learn how to handle Viragos and Corrupted Giants, pretty much you're in excellent position to do rest of the dungeon, because the other enemies actually aren't incredibly difficult and you should have ease going through them. And even with a leper and a Houndmaster who usually has lower damage, but if you do give him a damage item and obviously dogbone, and since a lot of the creatures in here are beasts, or at least a couple are, such as a Giant, you can actually do an impressive amount of damage. If you feel like putting him in a mark strategy, I'd be a little weary about that, because I'm wary about mark strategies outside of bosses who are slow, because there's always a chance of a turn or 2 passing and you losing your chance to fully appreciate that mark build. Now we have our third Giant, so we're getting a lot of Giant practice. You're getting to see a lot of Giants and how this party just keeps managing to effectively kill them. In a situation like this, we actually do want to kill the dog off. And the reason why I want to kill off the dog is it has a very high speed, it can get pretty good criticals which adds stress, and also does a good amount of damage. And also now with the dog dead, we are able to full guns at the Giant here, which means he can get a stun word 2 each turn, he can get a damage debuff if I decided to, but for the most part it's safest just to chew through him immediately. There's not a lot of reasons why to leave the Giant alive. And I don't go for the stun because the stun's not nearly as reliable, A, with a 90%, and B, I have a trinket on that's reducing my chance to stun. Therefore, taking the 14 to 16 health will counteract that about 20-25 damage. And as you can see, I followed up with another heal because I understand I need to just get through him before it's over. I didn't get to any critical, I get to reduce just 5 stress, and then he dies off to the bleed. It's very good. So that's another way to handle the Giant when they're lower. Just burst them down as fast as you can. Keep individuals as capped off as possible because you never know when a big crushing hit's going to come in. A fun thing about this party is with the Breakthrough and the Hound's Harry, you actually have 2 abilities that can hit a lot of people at once. And it's pretty darn good. As you can see there, I got rid of both maggots while still hitting the ghoul with a bleed and also just a regular damage. Therefore, I got to do some chip while getting rid of the front 2 guys without doing a direct attack, which sets me up for the leper. So there are good things about this party. There's amazing ways to control people, damage people, bleed them out, get through protection, because the Insatiable Ghoul does have a 40% protection, but with some nice criticals in there and also bleeds, we can just add a couple more damage through that protection that you normally wouldn't have. Little final word as this fight wraps up. Some great people to have in here are the Shield Breaker and the Flagellant. Obviously the Flagellant can get through a lot of that protection, and also the Flagellant's base damage isn't too low, and then obviously the Shield Breaker can get through every single piece of protection in here. We have another Virago fight with multiple enemies, so I'm going to show you how you can kind of handle this. I am actually going to just focus the ectoplasms, and the reason for that is the sooner I can get rid of multiple enemies, the Virago won't have the ability to use hers to bring forth those extra life stuff, and also the ectoplasm won't be able to regenerate other people, thus I won't be in this weird cyclical process of just trying to kill 2 enemies. So it's very fortunate I get both, leave 0 bodies behind. I now have just 2 enemies left, And I'm not going to kill the Virago first turn. I am actually going to try to kill the Crone because the Crone offers a lot of stress damage, blight, setup, utility, whatever have you. She gives it all. Therefore, we really just want to make sure we get through the Crone. I think the Crones are one of the harder enemies, and as you can see, I even take a disease from that. There's a lot of debuff, there's disease, there's blights, there's a lot of things you gotta worry about, and they also have an incredibly high dodge. Therefore, this is where I'm saying the leper, I was fortunate I hit sometimes, but I really probably should have had at least one accuracy trinket on. I didn't, but I did kinda get away with it, which is fortunate because there was no guarantee that I should have hit, and as you see here, I will kill the body. I obviously killed the body, so it can't do healing, and now obviously it's going to be full focus on the Virago. At this point, it's just kind of hoping we can get through that 46 dodge. We don't have any debuff. I don't really have any massive buffs on my side to give me more accuracy, therefore it's going to be attrition, but a Virago by itself is practically... it's pretty weak. It has some stuff, but overall you're not going to be too scared about a Virago left alone. It can get some nice criticals, it can add some blights, shuffle your party, but for the most part you're not too scared. It's just hitting the dang thing because it has a dodge of almost 50, which makes even 110 down to a 60% chance. It's pretty rough, so if you're facing Virago you're going to miss a couple of times, which is why I'm usually hesitant to finish off a Virago right away, because you spend a lot of your turns probably missing or not utilizing all your damage, and everyone else is just laying into you, and the Virago does have some pretty good skills that hurt, so therefore I think the Virago should often be reserved as last if the situation can allow it. If you think you can set up on a Virago, do it, but it's a lot more difficult than you think. This is a pretty easy fight, so I'll talk about the Weld a little more. We've seen a rather good diversity. The only fight we probably haven't seen in full yet is the fungal artillery with the fungal clawler, and we actually do not see that in here. If you run into that fight, and if you don't know what the fungal artillery are, they're the little weird, I think they got 4 legs in the back, and what they do is they launch and mark you. You can do a couple of things. You can maybe get a musketeer, clear marks. I think that's pretty weak, or an arbalist, clear marks. I think that's weak. I don't think you should do that. You're definitely going to want at least people who can hit the 3rd and 4th position, at least the 3rd position hard, such as in this party we could do the bleed, we could do Hound's Rush, and we could also do Judgment from the Vestal, and we could even do Intimidation on the Leper if I wanted. So there would be ways to hit the 3rd position, and also Barbaric Yawp can stun the 1st too. You do have the Leper and all that who could chip through the 1st row with a couple of good criticals. There is a stun on the Vestal to control the front row so they don't function on the marks, and they also have good heals, so there's a lot of stuff we could do, so it's not that bad of a situation. Thank you for watching. That is actually the last significant fight we take right there. I do fight one more fight, but I believe it's like 2 Ectoplasm again. It's not really worth showing. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope this helps you figure out how to kill a Virago and maybe kill giants, because I fought 3 giants and 2 Viragos. That's a pretty heavy specialized fights right there. There wasn't a lot of generic fights, which I was happy for, because we really got to see most of the Weld in its entirety, except for a couple of enemies and maybe a couple of compositions. But I do think the Virago and giant often offer the hardest situation how to handle, because they're the things you really only see in combination once you get to champion level. For the most part, you've seen fungal artillery and fungal clawlers grouped together, so you know how to handle that, but you don't always know how to handle a Virago and giant at once because it's such an odd party composition, but when it happens, you do need to be prepared. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe below.